Yeah, good, mate. March 2026. Let's get into it. So we're going to try and do one of these every month and just do a little synopsis and see what's happening in the world of South African wine. I see that you've reviewed a whole bunch of wines this month so far. So what, you've got Raka, Kruger, Swanepoel, Craven, Juisenberg, Rosé, Loic, Molyneux, Villafonte. Where do you want to start?
I suppose the first general comment I would make is that it's been a relatively slow start to the year in terms of what wines have ended up on the tasting bench, to use a Michael Fridgenism, which I have found somewhat curious. It makes you think that maybe there's a bit of a slowdown in the industry.
Just the sheer volume of wines coming to you?
New releases. You know, I don't know if it's indicative of anything. It did strike me that there were less samples being presented.
Is it just sort of like a feeling you've got, or have you backed it up with statistics and seen how many?
I haven't really crunched the numbers. I try to post every weekday, or as close as damn it, and that I simply just haven't had enough wines to review. And that's not for want of trying. I mean, I'm quite happy to buy off the shelf, but wines of interest haven't come across my path.
Okay, well, just a shout out to all the producers
big shout out
who haven't been featured on Wine Mag yet with their new vintages. Cool. Where do you want to start? Villafonte?
So let's start with Kruger.
Kruger, okay.
Exciting in that Johan has put a pick pool in the bottle, and obviously pick pool is a hugely successful category internationally, but very little of it planted locally.
So did you say it's a hugely successful category internationally? I think that would be overstating it.
Yeah, possibly, but I mean, it's certainly got an established following internationally.
Okay.
And it doesn't really feature on the local scene.
I think it's one of those wines a bit like maybe Muscadet or sorry, not wines, varieties, like Muscadet or maybe even Palomino or Colombard. Like, name the top 5 pick pools you've had in your life that have changed your... Like, it's a pleasant white wine that works in a warm climate.
Yeah,
essentially.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would, in my...
At the right price also. It's never... Yeah.
Fair enough. But in my personal capacity, I'd be delighted to see more pick pool in the bottle compared to entry-level Sauvignon, for instance. Mm-hmm. And as you know, I'm Colombard skeptical.
Yes. And so what did pick pool bring to the party?
As you just described, just completely smashable, great with seafood. You can serve ice cold.
Is it alcoholic mineral water or?
That's a bit unkind, but possibly yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Nice one. Oh, you had your 10-year-old report this month, didn't you?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what's that? 2016 wines.
Yeah. A controversial vintage or a not much loved vintage compared to, say, 2015 or 2017.
It did get sandwiched in between two titans of the recent Cape wine scene, didn't it?
Indeed. And so we had fewer entries than we did in the case of 2015. Mm-hmm. Not surprisingly, perhaps, but the top wines were really excellent.
Okay.
We had 4. There was a top 6, including a white blend from Takara and a port style fortified from Boerplaas. The 4 still reds were truly excellent.
Okay, cool.
And the conclusion being is that even in a difficult vintage, the top wine makers can still make really excellent wine.
Yep.
So perhaps not the depth or the breadth of 2015, but the good wines were really good.
Okay, fair enough. And was it a bit of a cliff edge after the top wines, or was it a sort of?
Yeah, as I say,
because 16 hasn't got the greatest reputation, as you said.
No, so 16 was, the drought was biting hard. What Vinpro commented on, and I think shows in the best wines, is that smaller berries as a result of the drought, bigger, less juice to skin ratio, and so the concentration on the best wines is remarkable. I think the weaker wines look a little bit drought affected in the sense of lacking freshness, in a word. But again, the takeout for me is that we all need to be careful of writing off a vintage. Buy the wine and not the overall story.
Fair enough. And what reds were, you said, did you say Takara was?
So Takara Director's Reserve White was best wine overall.
Yeah. And that wine is, I think, underappreciated in the Cape. I mean, it's a Sauvignon Semillon, so it's not a very cool, Sepa varietal mix at the moment.
So I think,
but it just keeps delivering. It's super solid and super dependable.
100%. I mean, more than dependable. I mean, I think the category Savsem is underappreciated.
But it was overappreciated, I think, for a long time before Shannon, really put its head out in South Africa, I think, from my point of view.
No, I think it's always been niche, eh? I mean, I think...
I remember when I first arrived in, 2013, people were pumping up the Magna Carta. That's all I ever heard about for the first 6 months.
Yeah,
and we weren't hearing about Skurfberg and Verkirsten and things like that had already been released, or other wines like Cartology was starting to get some traction from that Cape Wine 2012, and obviously the release earlier that year. But yeah, I think it was overrated, and now Shannon has just completely.
So Magna Carta from Steenberg was a groundbreaking project. John Loebser, now of Silverthorne, was behind it, and was a bit of a trailblazer. I mean, and yes, it did get a lot of hype, along with Vergelegen White, André van Rensburg. But I mean,
I haven't seen Vergelegen White out in the wild for a long time.
Well, that poses a whole bunch of questions about Vergelegen in general. Sorry, Luke O'Connor. I hope things work out there.
Yeah.
But I think the point about Savsem is that, regardless of the hype then and lack of hype now, the wines are quite cerebral, quite demanding. They don't generally find favour with the average punter because they're of the flavour profile, which is not that mainstream. I happen to love them. That said, I think they certainly aren't quaffing wines. I think they're food wines. I think they certainly need some age. Witness the Takara doing well in the 2016, in this year's 10-year-old report, the 2016 vintage doing well in this year's report. But I mean, if you think about the top performers, Chazan's Elam version, Cape Point Isle, they are remarkable wines, but you as you say, how often do you see them in the wild?
No, they're great to taste, but no one's really paying money to drink them, it seems. Cool. And the reds, what stood out? I mean,
so the reds were in the Rissenfeder estate, which also
is that Cab Shiraz?
Cab Shiraz Merlot.
Merlot,
okay. Famously, Kevin Arnold in the late 80s decided to add some Shiraz to his Bordeaux blend, which was quite revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, right.
And that's
what did the police say when they found out?
Well, I don't know how much of a controversy it was, but to Rissenfeder's credit, they've kind of owned it, and not too many other people followed suit. So it's quite an interesting phenomenon. I mean, there's another wine that does consistently well in the 10-year-old report.
Yeah.
And I personally feel it deserves more acclaim. I mean, I think it's up there with our very best red blends out of Stellenbosch, or in the country. What else did well? The Babylon's Turin Nebuchadnezzar. And I think, Babylon's Turin being on the Paarl side of the Simmonsburg is definitely a property to keep an eye on. You know, Koers Becker's money behind it, that there's no reason for it to fail.
Yeah.
The Neil Ellis Yonkers Hook cab, you know, great producer, great site. I mean, Yonkers Hook Cabernet really deserves to be taken seriously.
Yep.
And then I'm trying to think of the last red. How many did I mention there? Neil Ellis, Tristan Freder.
So the Friston Freder estate, I'm just looking it up now, is about $700 roughly, plus minus, depending on where you want to go. And the Takara, which was the top white, what does that go for? Do you know? I'm going to have a quick look at it now.
Are you talking about current vintage?
Yeah, just current vintage, yeah. That looks like sort of 400-ish, 400 plus minus. So not like outrageous prices, but so if you want to, I mean, what I'm saying is these two wines particularly keep appearing in the 10-year-old report in a favourable light. If you've got $500 to spend on a bottle of wine and you like 10-year-old wines, then they're pretty good options.
Sure. I mean, it does pose the question: who's keeping their wine for 10 years? I always think to myself that not many people are keeping their wine for 10 years, but the fact that these wines can go for 10 years is a real badge of honor, and I think goes towards their pedigree.
Yeah.
And I think there are quite a few wines that are positioned as premium, apex wines that don't last very long. And
right.
And that is a problem for me.
Yeah, right. Okay. And do you find most of the entrants are from sort of bigger estates, like obviously?
Yeah. So we've been doing this since 2017, and it is always alarming to me how many producers say that they would love to enter but simply don't have library stock. And I think that's an indictment of the industry. Indictment's a strong word.
And only if you believe them.
No, I genuinely think like you know, in terms of the new wave, they all sort of were startups 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I think we're compelled to sell every last bottle for cash flow reasons. And in terms of the old guard, I think it's astonishingly short-sighted not to keep.
Yeah, I think it's a bit from column A and a bit from column B. There's some of the guys have got too much to lose by giving you a 10-year-old wine that you might not love, and
of course, there's always that.
And then conveniently we don't have enough stock for it to be commercially sensible for us to be a part of. So, and I think legitimately there's probably guys out there who haven't kept a lot of library stock because for one reason or another.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, you know, regardless of the Wine Mag 10-year-old report, not being able to ascertain where we were as an industry 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, is problematic. If you don't know where you come from, how do you know where you're going?
Yeah, exactly.
I just need to mention the last of the reds. It was Del Air, Botmas Corp, and you know, there's a case in point. There's a very relatively new, very serious operation who always enter because they keep stock back.
Relatively new.
Yeah, well, I mean, under Monet Frey. I mean, Del Air as a property or as a entity has been around for a good while.
Yeah.
And you know, since it was acquired by Lawrence Graff and Monet Frey installed as winemaker.
Yeah, right.
I would guess that is 10, 15 years.
Other highlights of the month so far? You enjoyed the Craven Furs Syrah, I see. Yeah,
so my observation there would be not all the best Stellenbosch Syrah comes from Polka Dry. Mick and Janine's Syrah is from Devon Valley, of all places, off clay soils. And I just think it's I've liked that wine for a good few vintages now, I think the 25 is their best yet, and it's just really nicely tucked in, serious Syrah. Modern style in the sense of being not overly ripe or extracted, and really good value for money. It's about just under 400 rand a bottle retail.
Yeah, a bit less than that even, I think. I am the distributor of it, but I don't have the prices right here, but somewhere around there, yeah. I think maybe even less, maybe 350, but yeah, somewhere there.
Yeah, it's a really good value.
Yeah. No, I agree. The 25s are, especially the 25 reds. I'm a huge fan of the Craven wines. And
the Grenache is also
I'm
really
including the Pinot Gris in this as well, because it does get sort of 6 days of skin, so essentially it's a red wine. Really, really great wines. I see that you've recently reviewed the Villafonte 2020. What vintage is it? 23?
23s.
Yeah. A lot of rain that vintage in
a lot of rain in 23.
Yeah. How were the wines?
Villafonte insists that they got all their fruit in before the rain. Good on them. I must say, ever since Christoph Fries took over as winemaker at the end of 2016, that the wines have just grown in refinement, and I mean, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And I think possibly they were made in a very luxurious style for a long time, and now you can't question how serious they are. Are they best in category yet? Perhaps not, but they're not far off.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, the 23s are the penultimate vintage of the two wines. As of 25, it'll just be one Villafonte wine.
Oh, there. Okay.
And I suspect that might...
Is that breaking news, or is that...
That is breaking news.
Oh, right. There we go.
Told to me by Mike Ratcliffe.
Mm-hmm. Let's hope. On the record.
Yeah. Let's hope. I hope I'm not breaking any confidences. No, I think Mike wants it out there.
Okay.
And I think it's a smart move, and I think 25 is a much celebrated vintage, and I think all the indications are the wines I've seen so far, rightfully so, and I think Villafonte probably got their timing spot on, in the sense of, if you're going to finally release a single cuvee, 25 is probably the vintage to do it, and perhaps that's precisely what they need to go to the next level. But doing away with the Series M and Series C and making just one wine.
Okay, fair enough. And Molyneux's always a big release or a big reveal, but there's a bit of a twofold here thing with the Molyneux this month. So they've been certified as SA's first regenerative organic producer. Talk to me about that first.
This episode of The Cold Soak is brought to you by the Ex Animo Wine Club, delivering carefully curated wines chosen by our expert team, giving you access to exceptional bottles from South Africa and beyond. Learn more at exanimo.co.za/wineclub.
Regenerative is the buzzword when it comes to viticulture, and I think it goes towards the serious intent of the Molyneux that they have now got official certification. And I mean,
who certifies it?
I stand to be enlightened. I think the point about certification in general is, I mean,
surely that matters, though.
Yes, no, it does. But I mean, of course it does.
Yeah.
But the more general point I would make is that, previously it was organic and organic certification, and everybody claims to be organic but doesn't bother with the certification because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And then conveniently, as soon as there's a difficult harvest, they can not be organic just for that difficult harvest.
Yeah.
So committing to certification and the attendant expenses shows intent, and so well done on the Molyneux. There are these certification bodies that I think can be a little bureaucratic and money grubbing, dare I say. I'm sure Chris and Andrea can inform us as to who they are certified with.
Yeah.
Doesn't come readily to mind. That's my bad.
That's all right. And why did they do it? What was the...
So I mean, regenerative...
Well, why the certification? I mean, obviously...
why certification? As I say, I mean, I think it goes towards proving that you're committed to the process and demonstrating that you're committed to the process. Will we see more wineries doing it? It remains to be seen. I have no doubt that it's expensive. How many other wineries are regenerative?
There's certainly pressure on the export markets at a certain price point to be certified, at least organically.
Sure.
So I think that may be a big part of it, for sure. And the wines, what wines did they release?
So they released the Old Vines White 25,
Okay.
which comes in at 14% alcohol, a not insignificant 14% alcohol. I find it quite a big, rich vintage. Mm-hmm. They released a 23 Syrah, which I liked very much. It's very deftly done. And then a 25 straw wine, which I'm sure, it has a very well-established fan base, but I found the 20, again, very rich, exceptionally rich, opulent, and maybe that's the point of straw wine, but I'm not sure how I feel about straw wine myself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when you're supposed to drink it.
Well, that's the other thing. The opportunities to drink it and appreciate it for what it is, they don't come up every day.
No, so look, I mean, the point is, if you're into a decadent drinking experience, then Melanie's straw wine for you. But
Yeah.
I'm possibly more a noble late harvest man.
A couple of other wines maybe worth mentioning. Song of the Soils, a rosé that you actually liked. It looked
A rosé that I actually liked. That's from Justenburg. It's a Mourvèdre Syrah blend. I drank it under social circumstances. It was my wife's aunt's 95th birthday.
Yes, okay.
And I thought that was pretty smart, and prevailed on the producer for a sample bottle. And I really do think it's one of the best around. It's got a lovely vinosity about it. I think all of a sudden there's lots of quite nice pink out there, but a bit dreary, a bit, and maybe the point of rosé is to be inoffensive. But I actually thought...
Is it a bit generic, or is that the word
No,
you're
it's just
looking for,
sort
or
of...
not really?
Typically, they're clean and pretty. Thank God we don't make that much off-dry rosé anymore at the top end.
Yeah.
But clean and pretty and pink and desperately boring. Whereas the Justenburg's actually got some interest to it. And I think it's a smart choice of varietals. I mean...
They squeezed a bit of character into the bottle.
They squeezed a bit of character into it.
And the Loic Whitebait Chardonnay, debut wine?
Debut wine from Robertson, an effort to make a serious unwooded chard. It's a 25 vintage. It's great fun to drink, but as ever with unwooded chards in this country, everybody claims they're trying to make or replicate Chablis, but end up making something again pretty simple. I hate to say.
Right.
It's. I mean, I don't mean to beat up on the lake. I really enjoy drinking it. It's really smashable. It's fruity and fresh, and but
Is it the right price, or?
It's over 200 rand a bottle, so it's not, for what it is. It's not cheap.
Okay.
I wish them all the luck in the world, but
So, like at 180, you'd be pumped about it.
I'd be much more excited about it under 200 rand a bottle.
Yeah, okay. Cool. What else has been happening? Wine Cellar has rebranded itself into Bryson Burnett. I think Bryson Burnett.
Right.
So I'm still getting my head around it, and I still call it Wine Cellar.
You and me both.
Yeah. Thoughts on that? I mean,
so for the benefit of our listeners, Wine Cellar, one of South Africa's most well-established top-end wine merchants. I think the feeling was that their name was too generic and not aspirational enough. and so they have renamed themselves after their founders. And we were discussing off air, how momentous or not a name change is. I get their branding challenges, but I'm not sure it would be possible to sound more white and more like an accountancy or law firm if you tried. When they told me about Bryce and Burnett, I said, well, where's Buthelezi? But I wish them all the luck in the world. I hope it works for them. I suppose if you're up against, a posh competition like Great Domains and Reciprocal, then you need to sound like you also quite posh.
Yeah, I mean, I very much understand getting away from the generic sounding wine seller. You don't want to be the wine company or all that sort of stuff. But no, good luck to them. I don't know how you measure if it works or not. That's the one thing I was sort of thinking about, because you have to measure over such a long time, and then there's so many other factors involved in that period. How do you measure if it was a success or not? But good luck to them. So I think the wine cellaring part of the business is still called wine cellar, and then the wine merchant / importer is now called Bryce and Burnett. So based in Observatory in Cape Town. Okay. Good people, good wines. So go there. What else is happening? What else has been happening, mate? The Eat Out Awards were announced. Did you catch that? Or
yeah, look, I mean, I always, as an enthusiastic eater and drinker, I always keep an eye out on those awards. They always launch with much fanfare. Sponsored by Woolworths, and one gets the sense that Woolworths are dropping a lot of cash. I suppose Woolworths customers eat out a lot. What struck me about this year's results were perfectly respectable. Fane was Restaurant of the Year, but a bit predictable. And there was some controversy about their judging procedures a year or two ago. And it seems they've tightened those up now. Yes, I mean, the results are credible, but
there's a severe lack of Gauteng-based restaurants in the top flight. I mean, I'm looking at it now. They've got their 3 stars awarded to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 restaurants in the country. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from Cape Town, 1 from Franschhoek, 1 from Stellenbosch, and 1 from Pinetown in KZN. That doesn't seem quite right to me, but
Well, I think it's indicative of the culture gap, and I use the term advisedly. I mean, Cape Town is the food and wine capital of the country, and Gauteng might be the economic capital of the country, but there is a divide, and I know it bugs many inhabitants of Gauteng, but it is what it is. Our top-end restaurants are catering. I don't want to imply that Cape Town are where all South Africa's foodies and winos live. It's also basic business in the sense that the restaurants exist on tourism dollars, pounds, and euros, and nobody's going on holiday to Gauteng.
Well, they have to go see the animals somehow, and they usually have to go through
en route to the bush, maybe for one night.
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't. It looks like from my point of view that all of the judges are probably based.
David, you would know better than me. I mean, what Gauteng candidates should be on that list that aren't?
Good question. I'm just looking at the list now. But there's a lot of great restaurants up in Gauteng. I mean,
I reel them off. In all seriousness.
Yeah. Well, one of my favourites up there is called Fermier. I don't really see it anywhere. Maybe I'm missing it out. Oh no, it is there. There you go. Fermier is on there. But no, it just seems all Stellenbosch, all Cape Town.
But to be fair, I'm not sure that's Eat Out's problem. I think it's, as I say, more of a...
I mean, Marble's there, but only sort of 1 star. I mean, Marble's a really good restaurant. The Joburg version.
I think what's more concerning for me, rather than the Cape Town Joburg divide, is that there are very few fresh names there. And so, what does that say about the state of the restaurant industry in the country?
Well, hopefully that it's stable.
As opposed to static.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't want it to be too turnovery, and restaurants only last 15 months or whatever. But
sure.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I think there's some Cape Town and some Winelands ones here that are far too high for what they do, but yeah, interesting. It is a screaming sort of. I mean, there's as many Joburg restaurants as there are. Well, I think Franschhoek has more restaurants in this thing than Joburg. That doesn't make sense. I mean, I know that there's a lot of restaurants in Franschhoek, but they're not all great.
I tend to agree with you.
Some of the special awards, wine service went to Alton Damon at Let's start that again. The wine service award went to Alton Damon at Le Petit Colombe out in Franschhoek. Congratulations, Elton. Obviously, restaurant awards, these things are always debatable. It's so subjective. But it doesn't seem very even-handed, to put it mildly. Right, else. What's coming up in the next month?
What's coming up in the next month? WineMag will be releasing 4 of our prescient fund services category reports, namely Cape White Blends, Chenin Blanc, the Minority Report, which is alternative varieties, and Syrah, Shiraz.
Okay.
We've bundled them according to the seasons of the year. So the first bundle will be the autumn series, followed by winter, spring, and summer. So I've got...
And that'll be every year, presumably.
Well, as long as WineMag's around. So I've got some serious judging ahead of me.
Okay. So you haven't judged these yet? So
It's starting tomorrow.
All right.
Judging starts tomorrow.
Okay. Nice one. And what are you looking forward to most out of those?
Well, as we have discussed in previous podcasts, I think Chenin's our strongest white wine category, and Syrah is our strongest red. Hoping that there'll be some real excitement there.
And how do you judge a minority report when there's lots of different varieties and it's just a real mix of styles in there? How do you...
with some difficulty,
yeah, right.
Answer.
Yeah.
But it's actually Australia has a tradition of focusing on alternative varieties, and that's where I got the idea from. And
I've judged in that competition 1,000 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, so it is interesting, and I think it's it's difficult to sort of judge one Grenache Blanc next to 2 Roussannes, next to 1 Marsanne, next to 3 Colombards,
and a Picpoul.
But I think it serves the very useful purpose of giving a platform to those varieties and letting people know that they actually exist. And, And
when you're tasting them, obviously you're tasting when you don't know the producer. Do you know the vintage? Do you know the varieties? Do you know the region?
No, you would know the variety, but nothing else. You wouldn't know. We never declare vintage on the basis that I want the panel to be as even-handed as possible. So,
Yeah.
21 comes with a very high reputation, and 2020 doesn't,
much.
for instance. And then, does 21 automatically get extra points just simply by virtue of being a 21?
Yeah. And you see it on the page, it affects you before you put it in your mouth. But obviously, that could be true of variety as well.
So when it comes to Minority Report, to haste double blind, i.e. no indication of variety, I think would make it inordinately difficult.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I know what a bloody Grenache Blanc, to take Grenache Blanc as a case in point, extraordinarily difficult to find descriptors for. Love the variety. It's kind of whether it tastes nice or doesn't taste nice.
Yeah. But I know I'm just thinking, you're a self-confessed Colombard skeptic, which we've already discussed. So if you've got a Colombard followed by a Grenache Blanc, that might be the equivalent of a 2020 versus a 2021 on paper before you've even put your nose in the glass.
Fair enough. But may I just say that I live to be pleasantly surprised by Colombard. So when a decent one comes along, I'll be the first to let you know.
You've designed your life such that surprises, pleasant and otherwise, are upcoming. Easter's coming up. Any hot tips for what people should be eating and drinking over Easter? More so drinking, I suppose, considering the podcast.
What should people be drinking over Easter? Well, something that goes with hot cross buns.
Bubbles.
We have a
Extended lees aged bubbles.
I suppose that could work. What do you pair with hot cross buns? I think I once recommended muscadel.
Oh, that's too sweet, man.
Well, I mean, a hot cross bun is sweet.
But it's too sweet. Muscadel's too sweet. You want something with a little bit of a freshness and a bit more. I mean, you don't eat hot cross buns at the end of the meal.
I tend to eat them all through Easter.
Yeah, exactly. But do you drink,
but I'm saying,
but are you smashing muscadel all through
night.
Easter as well?
Morning, noon, and night. And then you get to the Monday, and
I think what Christian's saying, dear listeners, is do not drive because he's going to be over Easter, because he's going to be smashing muscadel all long weekend.
And big shout out to muscadel, highly underrated category. And we did really, really well. And
do we?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But there's no competition. I mean,
No, I mean, I think a name muscadel with 10 years of age on it, at least. I mean, some of them go for even way longer.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a thing of beauty, and people shouldn't be scared of them. I mean, of course they're sweet, but again, back to straw wine. A name muscadel or a straw wine, I know which one I would go for.
Cool. From Ex-Cinema, what's coming up? We're still waiting on our container from Europe, so that's still in the pipeline. We had a good tasting during the month with Jana from Le Clos de Prelba in Le Penedès, talking about Grenache Blanc and Grenache Noir, or Garnacha Negre. So that was interesting. Going to have some very cool Spanish and Italian wines, a new champagne.
Who's buying those?
At the moment, mostly people who have bought before. So I've done a little bit private. So I did a pre-shipment offer, and then once it gets on the water, I'll do a broader pre-release offer.
Profile of that customer? I mean, age,
industry adjacent, if not in the industry. It's probably...
So buying out of professional curiosity?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And some out of professional sort of rigor also. So producers who have got Viura or Macabeo who are playing around there, or who have got Grenache wines out, they're buying these wines also. So we're re-upping up on the Charles Rieslings out of Alsace, some more Piemontese wines, a new producer out of Sicily, a new producer out of the Dolomites.
Cool.
As I said, a new champagne. So that'll all come out once everything's on the water and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Fucking nightmare trying to get import certificates. The department at one point wanted the wine type to be on the front label as part of the front label, not a sticker. So it would have had to say red wine or dry white wine or dry red wine. So essentially they wanted all these imported producers to change their label specifically, their front label specifically for South Africa. And I argued with them and looked at the amendment to the Act under which they were denying our requests for a import certificate. And then I found that there is an exemption up until December 2027. So I quoted that back at them and they said, oh, okay, thanks, no problems. You can send them in and we'll approve them. So it was wild. It was just a fucking waste of time.
But if I understand correctly, that's all to do with the black market and wine substitute products.
Yeah, but the reason for it is a political one, for sure. Yeah. The fact that they've got a exemption built into the Act up until a date from which the Act doesn't can be exempted from everywhere. So that applies to all wine. But that hasn't manifested itself in local labels because of the exemption, and they were just overlooking the exemption up until for the imported wines until I pointed it out. But it's a bit like do you remember years ago when they said you would have had to have a liquor license if you stored more than 90 litres of alcohol on your premises, and that was in the Act, and there was an exemption. But it never really came into fruition. It seems this labelling requirement is very much in that ilk of political showboating and saying, no, look at us, we're really trying to fight the good fight and putting in things in place, but the industry is beating us down. So, yeah, instead of just pushing or policing the laws they have, they want to put new ones in because they don't want to actually do any policing. They put the laws in and then go, oh, no, we've put the laws in, we've done our part, how good are we? From my point of view, this is very much a David Clarke point of view. No, it was infuriating, and just dealing with government is never a great thing. What else is happening? Harvest 2026. Hearing good things, hearing bad things, Christian?
On the whole, good things. Okay. I mean, the one observation to make is that it was very early, but most of the producers I've spoken to are bullish and upbeat and positive.
It's the opposite of 23. Like, oh, we got in before the rain. No, we got it in just in time because remarkable this stuff.
A farmer who's not complaining is an unusual thing. It's either too hot and dry or it's too wet and cold. So
yeah, exactly.
The fact that they're bullish is remarkable.
Yeah. Over Easter, there's an Easter break. Where would you say people who are wine curious should go? Is there a region out there that deserves a bit more feet on the ground, so to speak?
I think it's just sport for choice there. Get out there, go and explore. Interestingly enough, we published the results of our second ever reader survey, and most popular wine district overall was Stellenbosch, followed by Swartland, followed by humour and Ida.
Okay.
So the peeps still, there's a lot of love for Stellenbosch still.
Nice.
And some great producers, some great restaurants. So I suppose not terribly surprising.
Well, every restaurant in Stellenbosch got to eat out of water apparently, so that's great. All right, okay, let's wrap it up. Anything I've missed here? Probably. But, well, yes, dear listeners, please send us your questions. What do you want us to cover in our next episode, which will probably come out, which will be wrapping up April, so it'll come out at the end of April, start of May. Any feedback would be appreciated. Christian, thank you very much. We'll see you next month. Stay thirsty.
Thanks, David.
Cheers.
Look forward to it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
That's it for this month's episode. Huge thanks to Clarke and Eedes for his time and insights. You can follow his work at winemag.coza and on social media at Clarke and Eedes. The Cold Soak is brought to you by Ex Animo Wine Club. If you'd like to explore exceptional South African wines and those of around the world, visit exanimo.co.za/wineclub. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you next month. My name is David Clarke. Cheers.